We'll call the November 18th, 2024 meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Personal appeals part one. If anyone in the audience has a personal appeal, please approach the podium.
No.
You have 5 minutes for your appeal. Please sign in and
Would you like me to date this too, Mr. President?
yes, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Michael Gibson, 230 Ridge Street.
I object to this witness.
I forgot the date.
The 18th.
Thank you. I'm coming before council and the borough staff to thank you for your patience while the Planning Commission and the task force for the draft zoning and saddle ordinances gets completed. We had a Planning Commission meeting last Thursday. We have a few final comments that are being reviewed by the solicitor that will be then forwarded over to the task force chairperson, and we will hopefully have this completed, I would think, by the end of this month with all the comments addressed, and hopefully be back here looking for your approval in the near future. So that did not take 5 minutes, but thank you for the 5 minutes, Mr. President.
Do you want to use your other 4.5 minutes?
To do what?
I'm not sure, Mike.
Filibuster.
Yeah.
It'll
No,
take me 5
thank
more
you guys
minutes to
for all
fill
of
this
your
out.
hard work. I mean, this is something that my committee started, 3+ years ago, and it's just crazy to think in the amount of hours everybody's put into this over that time. And, we're getting pretty close to being able to have a product to put out to our residents.
Yeah, and if you go back even further than that, we started the visioning committee in 2019 and have continued this process, throughout the COVID pandemic and everything else. So again, I appreciate the patience. We really want to make sure it's a thoughtful process so that we're not having to amend it over and over and over again, because that's where we got with the current ordinances. So we want to make sure it's clean and easily utilized by developers and citizens. So again, thank you. Thank you particularly to the solicitor whose team has had to diligently go through a lot of comments and make them legal. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Any further appeals from the audience? No. You're on the agenda.
Nah,
He's on the agenda.
yeah, but this is where he would go. That's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Can you-
English?
Yeah, can you?
You can go with the agenda.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. No, you're good, Ray. Does any of our online guests have an appeal?
Hi, I do. Chris Dufresne, 181 Harrison Street, Emmaus. I'm going to represent Emmaus Borough Halloween Parade Committee here for all the work that our dozen or so volunteers did on the parade this year. I also want to thank the parade participants who marched. We had a great turnout this year. But I want to call special thanks out to the Emmaus Public Works Department. They do, even as a former borough council member, I knew they did a lot of work for the parade, but once you get to see how much work they really do for the parade, they did a tremendous amount of work, and there were some changes this year that we worked together to have happen, and they did a tremendous job. So we want to say thank you to Lawrence and his whole team for doing everything that they did. We also want to thank the borough administrative team, the people inside Borough Hall who helped answer phones and get the mail for us and let us know if there were any issues or any comments that the residents had. We also want to thank the police department again for providing security during the parade and for having open communication with us so we could make sure everything was scheduled and set up as needed for the parade, and also the fire and ambulance departments for their participation in the parade this year. We had well over 36 Emmaus and other local businesses donate either through money, services, or products this year. So we appreciate all them. And we had too many residents to count, but we had a lot of residents who donated funds through sending checks in or cash in our donation boxes or using our PayPal payment services. This was the first year we also had food trucks, and there was 9 food trucks and 1 local business who participated in that. And considering that was the first year for the food trucks, I think it went very well. There's usually some issues in the first year of things, but I think it went very well. So again, we want to thank the whole borough team for all of their help and the residents for coming out on such a great night and supporting the parade. It was one of the larger turnouts that I've seen in a little while here. The weather had a lot to do with that. And then the last thing is we want everyone to look forward to next October 18th, 2025. That will be our next Emmaus Halloween parade. So thank you again for all the help that the borough provided.
Chris, thank you very much for organizing and spearheading that and getting a nice smooth transition from the powers to be there.
You're welcome.
Any other online guests? Seeing none. Anyone have a community minute they would like to share?
I do, Mr. President.
Sure.
We have a new business coming to town, 338 Main Street. Board to Death Games will be coming to town. Pretty cool name because it's going to be dealing with games, vintage, old, new card games. They're going to have everything. So the ribbon cutting is November 30th at 12 noon. So come on out, check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a community minute? Hearing none. Special presentations. Tonight we have 2. First up, we're going to recognize Chief Price in his retirement. You want to do a recess or leave?
No.
Everything. Come on up. Which ones should we?
I think there's more than one.
Yeah.
Chief Miller, you have something for him?
Oh, like, yeah. Although we already did our casual send off for you, Chief, after 8 years in Emmaus and decades in the Valley, there definitely was a need to formally recognize you for your service to the community and your actions as an excellent fire chief, a great mentor, and a personal friend. So we'd like to say, Chief, thank you. The borough was able to get some keepsakes for you to help you remind you of your time, aside from what you've previously gotten. And we wish you the best in your retirement, Chief. On a personal note,
Everybody from council, I'd like to personally thank you for your 8 years and just going through a tremendous transition in that department during that time. And thank you for turning it into what it is today.
Cruises.
Just keep posting everything.
Please, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given me. And I wish everybody well, and please ignore the pleas from my wife.
You gonna do some pictures? Then you should have a brief recess. Do it from podium.
The vice chair can do it.
Call
Go
for
to recess
recess.
for a second.
What's that?
Recess, just recess for a second.
Kind of just reset.
For photos. Go ahead.
Oh, we're going to pause for a brief recess for photos. Thank you. We're going to reconvene the meeting here at, I guess, 6:13 now. Next up and under special presentations is the swearing in of Police Officer Matthew James Hutchins.
I don't think so. Anybody wants my chubby ass?
Ready? Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Matthew Hutchins,
I, Matthew Hutchins,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Pennsylvania Constitution,
Pennsylvania Constitution,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the ordinances of the Borough of Emmaus,
and the ordinances of the Borough of Emmaus,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and defend against all enemies,
to the same and defend against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
that I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
without consideration to a person's race,
without consideration to a person's race,
color, sex, religious creed,
color, sex, religious creed,
sexual orientation, age,
sexual orientation, age,
national origin, ancestry,
national origin, ancestry,
handicap, or disability,
handicap, or disability,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity
of my office with fidelity
as a police officer in the Mass Police Department.
as a police officer in the Mass Police Department.
Hold on. Owen over there.
We're going to take a brief recess at 6:15 for photos. All right, we're going to reconvene here at 6:19. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the November 4th, 2024 council meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hohenscheid. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Baumgardner. Is there any discussion, corrections, or additions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 6 ayes. And actually, for the record, Roy Anders is absent. Decisions on bids. Shane, you want to talk over this since this is
Sure.
your,
Yeah, so we received numerous bids today. I think the last ones came in at 4:30 today. So this was it was on your agenda, but as I told you the other day, because we have to they only hold it for the same day. So if you approve one of these bids, I have to go downstairs tonight and lock it in. Otherwise it disappears tomorrow. So you see 3 attachments there. Really, it's 2 IGS Energy, which is who we have our electric contract with today. Put a bid in, and then a broker that we had been working with, Freedom Energy Logistics, had gotten bids for us from Direct Energy, Constellation, Hudson, NextEra, Smartest, and WGL. And what it looks like is that WGL is the lowest bidder. If you look in your iPads after you refresh them, so we would need to decide if you're going to go with WGL, if you're going to go with the 12-month at 0.08132, the 18-month at 0.05 or 0.8536, or the 24-month lock-in at 0.08647. So what does that mean, right? So essentially, as I had said before, our electricity is going up by $40,000 per year. And that's because of this whole capacity issue that's been documented. If you lock in for 12 months, you're going to pay about $117,303 on generation. If you lock in for 18 months, the 18-month rate, so you're going to be locked in for an extra 6 months, but over the course of 12 months. So I'm just comparing each of these for a 12-month period. You would pay $5,828 more for that 12-month period. And then if you locked in for 24 months, again, based on a 12-month usage, you'd pay $7,429 more over the course of 12 months, but you would be locked in for a 24-month rate. We can't, as I've told you, they can't guarantee us what rates are going to look like beyond a year because of the capacity auction, and I mean, we've talked about that. So really, what I would need from you is to, I think WGL is definitely the lowest bidder. What I would need for you to decide is if we want to go with the 12-month, 18-month, or 24-month. I think beyond that, the rate starts to increase a little bit more.
I'd like to make a motion that we go with WGL for the 12-month option of 0.08132.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Labenberg. There was a second by Mr. Hohenscheid. Discussion?
Just my only question, Shane, is do we know what the actual percentage increase was from our current rate to this, what the actual percentage is?
Yeah, I mean, so
Because we were saying 20 and then we thought maybe it was going to be a little lower. And I'm just
yeah,
wondering
no,
where
it came in right around that 20%
Okay,
mark. Yeah, net increase. It was 30% gross, but then you netted it out at about 20. So the one thing is this does not affect your streetlight rate. So we can revisit that. I mean, we showed that we were in a deficit because of the proposed 30% increase here. It does not, that capacity, we get billed directly from PPL. We do not shop the streetlight rate. So that rate can come back down to where it was. So that's good news for us. Okay. But the rest of the electric, obviously, this affects.
I have a question for 18 months or 24 months. Is that if we wanted to, for example, if after 12 months, if we were locked into 24 months and we found a better rate, could we change it, or is there penalty, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I would imagine that there's probably some kind of penalty. I don't have a copy of the contract. They didn't give us contract proposals, but most of them, I think on commercial, probably give you a hefty penalty to get out. I know that's how our IGS rate was. It was a pretty hefty penalty to get out of that if we would have found a better rate. I mean, obviously we had a very good rate.
Mhm.
Without reviewing the contract, I can say at a minimum they do have a penalty, and at a maximum you might not be able to get out of it. So I mean, if you lock in, you are locked in likely, and the penalty would be hefty. And considering budgetary constraints, that might be an issue.
I will tell you, I think the 12-month is a good strategy on this because the hope is that they do multiple capacity auctions and get those rates set, which means the next time that you were to go out to look at a bid, suppliers would have a more solid estimate of what 2-year cost would be or 3-year cost would be. Right now, because that capacity set, that rate is only good through April. They don't know what that cost will be beyond that. So we're hoping that come December, January, February, they do multiple capacity auctions over the free market, and then they'll know exactly what to expect in terms of setting rates for the future.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? There's 6 ayes. The next decision on a bid is to extend our grass cutting contract 1 additional year for the same exact fee that he had quoted for the previous year. Would anyone like to make
So
a
moved.
motion? Motion by Mr. Labenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hohenscheid. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oppose? Six
So-
ayes.
So the good news is we'll be able to decrease that expected increase that we had budgeted for. So I'll make that adjustment for your next budget workshop.
Under communications, we have the Emmaus Farmers Market 2025 event schedule, their street closure request and their banner request. The only thing on here that I would see that we need to maybe make a motion on would be the alcohol sales, but everything else I would send to staff to decide because this is absolutely an ongoing event.
Well, the alcohol has been the same every year too.
But do you think that we need another
So I'll make a motion that we,
2025?
So historically you have, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the event with the alcohol sales with the proper insurance
For all-
provided.
all of the dates.
Uh,
It's going to be every Sunday.
yes. So
Um,
moved.
Yep. A motion by Mr. Labenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hohenscheid. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Six ayes. Faith Presbyterian Church has an event request to do at Triangle Park on Christmas Eve at 11:15 to midnight with approximately 20 people in attendance.
This will be the 4th or 5th year.
This is definitely the 4th or 5th year. Would
You can just take it to staff.
take it to staff? Yeah, so we'll take this to staff. I don't think there's any thing that council needs to do for this. And then next thing up on the agenda is it's listed here as Ray Ignash. You guys can see all the drawings in here. He's having an issue with a curb cut on the property that needs our attention. It looks like he's going to need approximately about a 4-foot forgiveness on a curb cut to be able to swing a driveway into his house. I don't know if this is something I would probably like to have council maybe look at and talk about now. Ray is here. If we have any questions for Ray, I know that Nate went out and looked at the property. Mr. Laberg?
From what I read in our iPad, there is no opposition to this, correct?
Correct.
So I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Mr. Lavenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brown. Is there any further discussion on this?
I just want to bring clarity, just so for the record, just clarity. It's right now currently, Ray, your driveway is 21 feet, and the ordinance right now allows us 25 feet for length, and he's asking for an additional 4 feet to make his total of 29 feet. So that's why. So he's actually only asking for 4 feet.
And oddly enough, the ordinance says it has to go in front of Borough Council to approve. So that's why it's in front of you.
And it's being extended towards the street and not impeding on anyone's other residents.
Yeah, I would have guessed this was a zoning thing. It is not. It is entirely your problem, which is unique.
Yeah,
I-
Very unique.
Good luck for that.
It's another one of those where, like, as our codes guys were going through it, they see this and they go, "Well, this council gets to decide this one." So
And Mr. Reed, I talked to him today. And like Mr. Labenberg said, there's no opposition.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 6 ayes. Congratulations, Ray.
All right.
what do we need to? Do I just send them a letter saying it's approved? What do I?
I would actually draft this. A motion is an oral resolution. I would actually turn this into an actual resolution just so you have a record of it for the future.
I
You have to
can.
wait 30 days, or can he start
No.
construction?
No, he can start.
I
'cause
can
it's
draw
approved.
that up. And,
But there's no opposition, so nobody would have the right to appeal it anyway.
Okay.
So, but just turn it into a resolution instead of then you have a formal recognition of it and it can be kept somewhere for future.
Do I
Yep.
need to change my motion to make it a
No,
resolution?
no, the
Okay.
MPC considers motions to be resolutions, but a written resolution will allow Mr. Ignash, when he sells his property or moves, that somebody else will have documented proof that this was approved.
okay, so we'll just reference it as for the record, resolution number 2024-30.
And Mr. Ignash, while this is technically not a zoning hearing, I will tell you, since there is no opposition, there is no right of appeal other than from the Borough Council. So you could move forward with this provided, but if the borough were to appeal this, they would have 30 days to do it. Oh, that'd be weird.
Yeah. What?
I mean, yes, I realize that nobody opposed it, but again, technically there is a 30-day appeal period. I know.
Perfect. Borough engineers report. We have none. Solicitors report.
No report.
Thank you. Under unfinished business part 1, we have none. And under new business, we have a first reading of ordinance 1272, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus amending chapter 15 of the codified code of ordinance, existing residential permit parking areas to additional streets throughout the Borough of Emmaus. This is our first reading. This came out of the Public Safety Committee. This has been going back and forth for a little bit now, and this is the one that we were anticipating last meeting, but we didn't have quite right.
No.
No.
No, this one isn't.
This is the one from the gentleman that was from Walnut Street.
Oh, sorry, I got the next one is. This is the Walnut Street one with the school parking.
Yes.
Would someone like to make a motion for ordinance 1272?
So moved.
Mr. Leibenberg, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Baumgartner. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Watt,
Aye.
Mr. Leibenberg,
Aye.
Mr. Hunshad,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Baumgartner,
Aye.
Mr. Balliet, aye. We have 6 ayes. Our next reading of this will be on the 16th meeting. Next up is ordinance 1273, an ordinance amending the code of Borough of Emmaus by amending chapter 15, part 5, parking kiosk zones, and part 6 of off-street unmetered parking to establish amended regulations relating to disabled parking, timed parking, and the eliminating of the kiosk located at 311 Main Street. This is the ordinance that was going
Yeah.
back and forth in public safety that we discussed in length the other day. I did look through it. I think once we get to the discussion part, everything that we discussed looks like it is proper in here. Anyone like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1273?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Honshad. Any discussion?
Do you want me to go through what all's in it, or do you just want to go to?
Brent's saying yes.
You want me to go through what's in it, so that way. So yeah, so there's several parts of this ordinance, as Mr. Bally had suggested. We would have had this written last month, but between the chief of police and I, we didn't feel that we had everything that was supposed to go in it. And we were definitely right, because we spent some time at the public safety meeting again the other day, just making sure.
Clarifying.
And so right out of the gate, what the ordinance does is we remove the kiosk from 311 Main Street. So the first now therefore be it ordained eliminates the kiosk from the parking lot. Okay. And then on top of that, our next piece was to remove the parking, the disabled parking spaces at 327 Main Street. And then we added 2 parking spaces, disabled parking spaces at 311 Main Street. That's the parking lot. So we took one off this. Technically, it said it was in a parking lot, but it wasn't. It was the handicap parking spot that was reserved for Sundays for the farmers market. The issue at that spot wasn't because we didn't want to have handicap parking there. The issue at that spot was that parking spot altogether needs to be eliminated because it's too close to an intersection, right? Or right
The
crosswalk. So that was identified. So we need to remove that. But what we did, and then we also at the same time removed one across the road, essentially between Bliss Paints and our municipal parking lot at 311. There was no reason why that handicap parking spot was there. There's no handicap curb cut. There's no residence. There's no real rhyme or reason. And we felt that it was safer just to take that spot and add it to 311 Main Street at the parking lot as well, saying that it's only a couple feet away. So what we did was we eliminated both of those on the public street. We put them in the parking lot. So that took care of those two things. The next thing that we did with this ordinance was we addressed some restrictions and some things that they wanted to do at the parking lot. And that created a whole nother having to create sections within the code because we didn't have any hour restrictions in unmetered parking lots. So what we did was in 15-601.1, we added a 3-hour parking limit at the parking lot of 311 Main Street. But at the same time, what we did was we had to establish long-term permitted parking in unmetered parking lots. We did that in a kiosk center, but we didn't do that in unmetered parking lots. So what we did was it was literally a copy and paste and just kind of reformat from the kiosk ordinance onto this section. So what we did was we created the availability for people to continue to obtain parking permits at that parking lot. We did change the hours. They can get evening parking permits from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And they can get daytime parking permits from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then what we did was we also added in an exceptions piece because one of the conversations we had was, well, what if we have an event in the downtown, right? Can there be a time where we can make an exception? And so that was already in another section of the code. We just brought that in and put that in this section as well. And then all the rest of it is standard language. But those are all the things that we did that I believe we captured everything. Maybe some minor grammar things that we're cleaning up.
Go ahead.
You're looking at me, yes, but this comment's not related to that. In section 15-601.1, at the very end, I'm noticing it says parking is prohibited for greater than 3 consecutive hours, 24 hours per day, 365 days per year. And we had talked about overnight parking. So should that address?
Yeah, so that was the
there?
next, so that's the next piece of it though. What we did.
But should it say there that it's not 24 hours, that it's 3 hours parking?
So what I did, and Mr. Ulrich can answer that better than I can, because I thought about putting it there.
Yeah.
But then I was like,
see it
well,
later.
but
in
then
the
what I
next-
did was I established the parking permit section after that for that parking lot. So essentially what we're saying is standard in that parking lot is 3 hours.
But from 8
But
p.m. to 8
You
a.m.
can obtain a permit. So what I did was I did one section and then established it in the next section.
So the argument is 15-601.2 would supersede that.
Yes, that's what the question is.
Right. But
Because that's the intention.
the way it's written
Yeah.
in 601.2 is that evening permits are valid from 8 to 8 a.m. But the previous section says 3-hour consecutive hours, 24-hour period.
Do I
So
just
just
add
didn't know
in, like to avoid any kind of conflict, would I just add in with the exception of
Can you just
permits
say 8
established
a.m.
in
to 8 p.m.?
15-601.2?
Instead of 24 hours, can you say 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? This is 3-hour.
I mean, you could do an accepting clause, basically saying accept as however you two decide that I would add in an accepting clause to say except as stated in 1601 or 1601.1 blank and then long-term parking. And I don't believe that's a sufficient enough change that would require re-advertisement.
Well, we didn't advertise. This
Oh.
is just the first reading.
Okay, then you should be good to go because that's a relatively simple change. It's innocuous and it shouldn't be. You're simply clarifying an intent. I mean, I think it would probably hold up if this were to go to court that this was superior, that 1601.2. But for the sake of clarity, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah,
There's no downside to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could also in 1601.1 just omit the 24 hours per day, couldn't you? and just say 365 days a year.
Well, so remember, we're offering daytime and evening permits.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
But we're not
Yeah.
saying that they can park there
Yeah.
3 hours. Okay.
So I can't go to Armetta's and park there for 3 hours?
You can park there
After-
for, you can park there for 3 hours and that's it.
Right. Anytime within that 24-hour period, I think is the point.
I get what she's saying. What this says is anytime for you can go there for 3 hours, 24 hours per day.
Right. Okay.
That's what the ordinance says. What she's suggesting is, does that create a problem for the person that wanted to get the permit and park there for 10 hours overnight? Was really what we're trying to get at.
Yeah. I mean, I think at committee level, we also talked about no overnight parking. After
You
8.
guys had decided that you would allow the nighttime permits from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Right.
That was
For
the vote.
permits. And
Yes.
So that's what I'm wondering.
Right.
If they're not permitted after 8 p.m., we're saying they cannot park.
May I,
there,
may I make
correct?
a suggestion? Maybe start with at the top of 2.02, where you start at number 2, notwithstanding what is contained in 15-601.1. So you exclude that language. That will cover that. Then the borough may issue long-term parking, and then add in. Now you two are talking about a very specific set of language, so I don't want to intrude on that, but I would suggest that would be the way to clean this up in a way.
So
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I think what I was thinking about was what happens if the Thai restaurant's open till 10,
yeah.
right? Or the movie theater's open till 11, or Yergis is open till 11. For me, it allowed them to stay there beyond 8 o'clock, but we don't want them to be there beyond 3 hours of time. So that was the best way I could come up with it. Because to me, overnight is like, I went to your house, I slept for the next 6-8 hours or whatever it might have been. So I was trying to figure out how to craft it so that,
Because
because that's what we were trying to avoid, was that kind of overnight parking, right?
May I ask a question? Is there a specific scenario that you're worried about that I can? Because if there's a specific scenario that everybody's concerned about, it's easy to craft the language. Without having been involved in the discussions, I don't necessarily know what you two are actually worried about.
So it's not so much a worry. I just
Or-
want clarity
yeah.
because in the committee, we had discussed no overnight parking unless it's permitted, and we had the overnight parking as 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. because that was consistent with what was stated in at the triangle. And
then
so
8
the
to
way
8.
this is written, though, is saying that they can still park for 3 hours at a time, even during the after 8 p.m. timeframe. And I just wanted to make sure that that's what we wanted it to say and to clarify that.
Okay, so if I'm looking at 1601.1 and then the subsection for 311 Main Street, parking is prohibited greater than 3 consecutive hours, 24 hours a day, 365. And then we flip to the next one, adding that notwithstanding what is contained in, you want to add that language to specifically exclude it. The borough may issue long-term permitted parking in monthly increments. That would supersede what is in 1601.1, but daytime. And then your concern is then in B1A and B to make sure that that's correct in 1602 or 6.
Yeah, that we're just communicating what we want to communicate for overnight parking and the permit
Overnight.
specifically.
Yeah, we don't want to allow the opportunity for people to essentially
there all
park
night.
there overnight over and over and over again,
Yeah.
right? And so like the struggle was simply trying to put in there so that I can still patronize a business and park in that lot, but not be considered
an
overnight parking. That's really what we're trying to figure out here, I think.
I would have a hard time. I think this is sufficient the way it is because I think the average public consumer of this who would be cited for it would not have that, would not be able to make that argument. It would be difficult in front of MDJ to say, I don't understand this. This didn't make sense. I think you'd have a harder time with that. But I mean, there's always a more specific language you could add, but I do think this would probably hold up should an officer take this to an MDJ.
Okay.
But I do think I do think it makes sense to add the notwithstanding because it specifically then excludes what's happening in 601.1 from what's happening in 601.2.
Sure.
But I think the 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., the way it's written, I think that is probably going to capture what you're looking for. I mean, again, I hesitate to say this. I know nobody wants to spend money. I could look at it and spend more time on it, but it's your decision.
Do we also need to put language in here, like, for example, the Halloween parade when we put all the food trucks in there? So
But
if you have
the-
a
no,
permit-
that's what the exception
That's
section is
this
for.
So that-
601.3.
601.3.
okay.
That's why that was included in there.
And that's what so you just pass a resolution approving it.
Yeah.
For special
Events.
purposes. Perfect.
So if I pull in the lot at 7:59 and walk down to Yergis, and then I come back and there's a ticket because
You have 3 hours.
how did they know that I came in at 7:59?
Well, it's when they mark the tires.
Yeah, they usually
At
mark
night?
tires, but they mark tires with chalk.
Or the cameras that I have in the parking lot, Nate.
Somebody can call.
Okay,
What camera?
you love those cameras, brother.
Does that hold up?
Especially when it's come
So
to
a
you.
camera would hold, so a camera would hold up
testing
because
it.
there is a business records exception to hearsay, so you would not need an officer and or something to support that.
Wow.
So Shane can be there. I don't know, 10
No,
with
Shane
the-
does
with
not.
this little
Shane does
clipboard.
not have to be there. There's a hearsay exception because it's a business records exception, so you're not spending any time or money on it.
But somebody has to check it.
Well, your
ahead
officer
and
will
try.
check it.
I'm parking at
Mr. Honchak?
7:59:30.
So just to be clear, people can park in that parking lot for 3 hours at a time, anytime, day or night. So whether it's
How it's written.
7:59 or 8:59,
That's how it's
people
written.
can always use the lot.
Absolutely.
Right.
Means
Okay.
they could be there from 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. as well.
Right, perfect. Yeah,
That's
and
how
I'm
it's
good
written.
with that. I mean, my recommendation would be just at the end of 601.1, just say, comma, unless otherwise permitted per section 601.2. And I think that just,
Right.
I did it in the inverse, Chris, by saying, so at the beginning of 1601.2, where it says 2, the borough may issue what I suggested was notwithstanding what is in section 601.1. So I did the inverse of what you suggested, but it's functionally the same thing. And I don't care of drafting wise. They would both effectuate the same goal, but that was what my suggestion was, that you want to specifically exclude that parking permit. And I think that was Ms. Baumgartner is correct on that.
Mr. Lindbergh?
So, well, you have 3 new people here. So I originally voted against purchasing the parking lot. I was not in favor of doing that. And then, I don't know, maybe Roy was too, but I think I was the only one. And once it was approved, I had a little hope that we would generate revenue to help pay for the $400,000 plus parking lot that we paid, that we bought. So even though this kiosk doesn't generate the money we were expecting, I also think it's part of our fault because there's horrible signage. There's really no signage. It's just a Wells Fargo sign that's sitting there, and we have no signage there. So I don't think we gave it a shot, in my opinion. And even though it's not generating the revenue that we thought it would, it is generating revenue, and I don't support getting rid of the kiosk. Everything else in the ordinance I'm fine with, but I know I'll be on a losing end of this, but I'm fine with that. And then, now we have no revenue coming in for a $450,000 parking lot we just purchased. Zero.
Can I speak to that?
Good.
So we did talk about the costs of keeping the kiosk and the costs of the revenue coming in. But also thinking through, and this is why we were talking about the limits and the permits. So that's why there is now the option for overnight permitting, daytime permitting. And it's also a conversation we're thinking about more broadly too, just in all municipal parking lots.
Correct, but we haven't marketed that to the neighbors at all yet, and a year has passed.
Yeah.
So the kiosk cost is about $2,000 a year.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear what you
The
said.
kiosk cost is about $2,000 a year to maintain the software.
And how many, what's the average per month? We're making what, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month.
No, not per month.
If 200, and that's a lot,
Yeah.
Mostly generated on Sundays.
For what?
200 per month, if that. We're not making the money. that you
Without
said.
us having proper signage. I'm just saying that, that's all.
We do have signage at the lot, but it is
It's
undersized.
horrible
Yeah,
because I
it
drove
is
by
undersized.
tonight, I saw nothing but a Wells Fargo sign.
I mean, we could put a sign the size of the Wells Fargo sign if you want.
It's not my point. My point is it's not well advertised. It's not well known because we're not letting people know it. It's just my opinion. If you don't agree with it, that's fine.
I agree that it could be more publicly advertised. I think the signage could improve.
Mr. Hedges?
My thought on that, Brent, is, and I'm guessing that others would be, hold a similar opinion. When I come into town, that lot might be there with the kiosk, but I mean, I've never parked in the lot and paid the kiosk because there's always someplace else. Maybe I have to walk an extra block or half a block, but if I can park for free, I'm not going to pay to park in a lot. And if we're going to generate some money from the permits, that could.
And
help
Chris, you
offset.
just made my argument for the reason why I didn't want to buy it. Thank you. Because that was my argument.
Any further discussion on this? This is a roll call vote. Ms. Watt,
Aye.
Mr. Labenberg,
No.
Mr. Hunshad,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Baumgartner,
Aye.
Mr. Balliet, aye. Our next reading on this one will be on the 12/16 meeting as well. Under unfinished business part 2, we have none. Does anyone have an item that is not on the agenda? Hearing none. Madam Mayor's report.
I have nothing to report this evening. Progress.
Thank you. Public Works, Mr. Anders is not here.
I'll report in his absence. There was no meeting because it was canceled. And the next meeting's December 9th at 4:45 PM. But I do want to say, I did get to check Weeder Lane out where they redid the whole road. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't get to go on East Main Street yet, but I'm going that way tomorrow. And I want to check out is it South 12th and Tillman? Was the other one?
That sounds right.
I want to check them out too because they were horrible and I can't wait to see them after seeing Weeder Lane. It looks fantastic. Progress.
Great. Next up, we have Health, Sanitation, and Codes. Mr. Brown?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Solicitor, last meeting, we had a gentleman come to the podium regarding the Anytime Fitness property and the paving. Did you get communication from him and?
Nope.
I have
official?
heard nothing from him.
Nothing.
Okay.
If we would,
It might be because we said we weren't going to be doing it this year. So if they're
That's
not doing
true,
it till
too.
spring, maybe he's
All
not.
right, I was
doing
just
it.
curious if any movement.
if there was something that would have come here, I would have brought it to the attention
All
of
right,
council.
so currently, there's nothing on our agenda. I'll keep the meeting open for December 17th. But if nothing happens, then I'll cancel it.
Progress?
Progress. The end.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Hunshad.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing for action. The next meeting, on your iPads, it's showing that December's meeting is the next meeting. We do have our next meeting coming up this week. It's on Wednesday, November 20th, instead of the regular Thursday. That's 4:45. I will be joining via Zoom, but it will be Zoom or in person. Progress.
Great, thank you. Public Safety, Ms. Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. We already took care of the ordinances related to parking. The other items for action are the proposed ambulance subscription benefits. So if you recall, we did approve some updated ambulance subscription fees And now we were just trying to make sure that whatever benefits we were offering were similar to what was being offered in the area. And thanks to Ms. Watt and the chiefs, they put together this chart that's attached there to show the comparison and made a proposal for what would be the offerings for the different ambulance subscription rates. So I can put that in the form of a motion to approve the proposed ambulance subscription benefits as outlined in the chart that's attached. And
Second.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner, a second by Mr. Lavenberg. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Glad it's done.
6 ayes.
That was a long time coming.
I know. And I appreciate Councilmember Watt for doing all that work and research. So thank you for
She
doing
loves
that.
it.
The next item for action is the new ambulance purchase. So as you are aware, there is a long lead time on the ambulances, and there is one ambulance that is kind of out of commission at this point. So there is this need to order in order to follow a replacement schedule, and also due to the urgency of not really having a working ambulance. So you have the quote there, and I would put that in the form of a motion to grant them the right to order the new ambulance from Braun Express.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner. Is there a second?
Real quick, do I have to put the amount in there?
You don't have to, but
Okay.
you can if you want.
Okay.
Since you're still making
It'll
the
probably
motion.
change.
It's gonna change.
So, okay.
Ford is gonna
I know.
do a delivery surcharge as they've been doing with everything.
Yep. Okay.
Nothing's cheap.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hohenscheid. Discussion?
Just
Brown?
a quick question. Was there a diesel option available?
There was a diesel option, and I've questioned, well, when we ordered this first gas ambulance, and what I'm being told from that department is the diesels with the new emission systems, they're having a lot of issues with DEF
DEF.
filters
Yeah,
clogging and not idling
and it's corroding.
and all kinds of stuff. So they moved to the gas version, and since that, I've actually stopped in and spoke to the folks that are driving that and making the calls and stuff, and they actually like the gas better than the diesel, and just the operating cost alone, savings in diesel fuel, all of that, they're liking it. Mr. Pepe?
No, I think that was spot on. I mean, one of the things is the amount of time that an ambulance idles. You know, the diesel is clogging and creating some issues there. So, yeah, I would echo. I think that's spot on what I would have said.
Yeah, that was my concern too, with just having the diesel, but apparently these things are working on the idle.
Well, yeah, I bring it up because I know federal government wise, they're able to get trucks with diesel without the DEF. And so I'm curious of why we, as a local municipality, can't get the diesel without the DEF as well. Anyway, that's a separate
Well,
issue.
yeah. So
That is not
the only thing I can tell you is remember most municipalities don't own ambulance departments.
Yeah,
So they're probably producing these things one way, but I'm sure we also didn't ask that question.
that's okay. It's not a big deal.
I will say that this particular ambulance is consistent with what we've already purchased. So there's consistency across the ambulance is what we're aiming for,
Yeah.
so that they're basically moving from ambulance to ambulance without having to deal with a different
Yeah, I agree.
system or layout.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 6 ayes.
We'll see this 3.5 years from now.
Yes. All right. Thank you for that. We do have our meeting notes from November. Our next meeting will be December 11th at 9 a.m. I'll report progress.
Thank you. General Administration, Mr. Lavenberg.
The only thing to take action on is to appoint Christine Snyder to the non-union employee pension board. And I'll place that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Mr. Labenberg. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Watt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 6 ayes.
We are meeting this Wednesday in person at 9 a.m. to do interviews. We have 4 scheduled 30-minute interviews for, what are we calling the position? Public Safety Secretary?
Administrative
or
assistant, yeah.
Administrative, yeah. All right. So with that being said, progress.
Thank you. Next up, Budget and Finance. The only thing that we have for official action would be Resolution 2024-29, which is the bill list. Bill list is as follows: is $818,233.24 for the bill list. We have payroll 23, which is $212,430.27. Payroll taxes of $73,295.45 for a grand total of $1,103,800 or $958.96. Done this 18th of November. Make a motion to pay our bills. Motion by Mr. Brown. Is there a second? Mr. Labenberg. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Attached is the check registry and all the other bill lists, and then also our significant revenues and expenses. Anybody have any questions on any of that? Hearing none. Our next meeting will be December 4th at 11 a.m. With that, I'll report progress. Community Relations, Planning and Development, Ms. Watt.
I have nothing to report. Our next meeting is Tuesday, December 10th at 5 p.m. Progress.
Thank you. Under boards and commissions, you're going to find that the pension board meeting minutes are attached. Also, the planning commission meeting from October. This wasn't the meeting that they just had, right?
Correct. They had a Thursday night.
Yeah, the Thursday night meeting, not on here. This is the meeting from the night before. But what I would like to say about the pension board meeting minutes is, since getting involved, becoming council president and I sit on these pension board meeting, it's unbelievable how professional these people are and the way that they actually do handle our pension for our uniform and non-uniform people, and the way that they deliver the message is, I mean, you're nodding your head. It's definitely different than what we had in the past, and I just wanted to let everyone know on council that we made a really good decision. I think switching over to these folks, it's very well presented, and the information we get is very useful. And when someone asks a question, they typically have the answer almost immediately. Right?
Yeah, I think they do an excellent job in presenting and also
explaining.
Well, so I always say, like, dumb it down to our level, right? Like, if you can't teach it on an 8th grade level, then you're probably above me. And so, like, I think in the past, there have been times where I felt like she was way above us, right, Lee?
Yeah.
This group seems to present it in a way that a normal lay person that is not well-rounded in the investment world can understand and actually grasp the concepts that they're trying to relate to us, which is very helpful because, we're not all investors that are on that board, but we're all very much invested in what's going on with our pension plans. So, yeah, I think they do a great job for us.
Yeah. And they did compliment on, which was Mr. Labenberg's idea, was doing a quarterly funding our MMO on that. that is it's a good thing, and they like that. So it was good. Personal appeals part 2. There is no one in the audience. Does anyone online have an appeal?
Do we have?
Hearing none online. Borough managers report.
Yeah, so I have 2 items for you. First, Harry Hunn has met the requirements to become a master firefighter within the department. So I want to congratulate Harry for that. The second one, I do need an official approval for, but Christopher Jost has met the requirements to be a Class 4 employee up from Class 3 within the department. So we will need you to vote on that.
Is there a motion to promote Christopher Jost? Mr. Labenberg, second. Mr. Hunshad, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 6 ayes.
So as you're aware, you're contractually obligated that as long as they meet the requirements, we have to approve it. So, but we still have you vote on that one. Other than that, as you know, the budget is ongoing. And I have some material that you'll probably get tomorrow morning, maybe late tonight for it, but then I'll report progress.
Under president's business, our budget is definitely coming down the home stretch. We'll be meeting this Tuesday and Thursday, and got lots of work to do. We got the fee schedule to get through and a bunch of other stuff. Thank you, everyone, for all your participation in that. And that's it on that. There will be no executive session tonight. Motion for adjournment. Motion by Mr. Watt, seconded by Mr. Brown.
You mean Mr. Honscheid?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Hunshad.
You do have 6 if you wanted to tie it.
Didn't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, we're gonna do that today.
She's over there, right?
Yeah.
Roy's the only one that does that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 6 ayes. Meeting adjourned at 7:09.
Mayor made me buy a camel. I want to make the mayor work.
Yeah.
King, were you